Thank you, everyone, for joining us today to talk about payroll tax for non-resident F1 and J1 visa holders. So we'll cover our agenda first and talk about the different topics we'll be discussing, and then we'll go into detail on each one of those topics. So the first thing I want to make sure is that everyone understands the visa types that we'll be discussing, and also what OPT is, which is optional practical training that these non-resident aliens are allowed to use when they come into the US and are on a specific type of visa. So we'll go over the F1 visa, the optional practical training, the J1 visa, and then the I-94. Then we'll go into the federal tax treatment of those items and look at the FICA and Medicare and FUTA exemption, the tax treaty, the Form 8233, which is a specific form that they would fill out for that tax treaty, the Form W-4, and then calculating non-resident tax. Okay, then we'll go into year-end reporting and talk about the reporting for the Form 1042S, and then the 1042 and 1042T. Then the Form 941, which is the annual quarterly tax filing that is done, and we'll talk about that as well. And finally, then we will discuss helpful publications and websites that would give you more information about all national or none of the above. So what a non-resident alien is actually an individual who is not a US citizen or a US national. Practical training. So the F1 visa is specifically for full-time students who come to the US and they are going to study at an accredited college or university. So they've chosen to go abroad and come here to study. So they retain an F1 visa, and that allows them the specific time frame to be able to come here and do those studies. Then they're also granted what is called optional practical training, and that is temporary employment that has to be directly related to their major field of study, and they can apply for this OPT and be granted up to 12 months of the OPT, and it can be done either pre-completion of their studies or post-completion of their studies. So they have that choice, but they're allowed that additional 12 months. So if the OPT is granted pre-completion, so prior to the completion of their studies, it allows the student to work 20 hours or less per week. Now, if they do it post-completion or after their studies are completed, then the student can work part-time or full-time hours. So they're not limited to that specific number of hours per week. Now, it does need to be in their field of study. So they've got to find a job that's directly related to what they're studying while here. But the OPT is important because it does come into play when you're looking at their tax and how they're supposed to be treated. So the next thing is, if the student does pre-completion work, then those hours count towards the 12 months that they're allowed to do the OPT. So it's kind of all included in their length of stay that they can be here. But if they do it post-completion, it actually gives them an additional 12 months that they can remain in the US to do that OPT. Now, the next type of visa is the J1 visa, which is for teachers and researchers who are participating in a program that promotes cultural. So that allows them to come over and do those things. And they have also a specific period of time that they can be, and that's why the I-94 comes into play.